hello, bonjour, guten tag, anything else that you'd like. It is our final day of the In Out Crowd Festival in honour of LGBTQ plus History Month. And as you can see, I am clad in the very last colours of the rainbow flag, which is the black and brown, which is in the chevron part, the little triangle part of the flag. Now, of course, this edition was something that we talked about yesterday during our Word of the Slay. And slay being one of those words that we have even discussed on Word of the Slay as being originated by black and brown communities from the LGBTQ plus community way back when during the time of the Stonewall riots and subsequently the time of the queer movement as a whole. Now, something else that has really triggered this In Out Crowd Festival has of course been that it's LGBTQ plus History Month. And in the UK, the reason that it's on a February is because the clause of section 28 was completely done with on the month of a February. Now, section 28 is something that we've discussed a couple of times on the In Out Crowd, as well as in separate blogs and podcasts that we do. But it's something that we thought we could just have a wee quick look at, given that we've already talked about it a little bit this week as well. And I'm going to open it up to the rest of my team because it's time for the LGBTQ and A. Yes, time for the LGBT Q&A. So I'd like to invite everybody on. Oh, you're already here. Fabulous. So I'll just start with the first question. Do you know what Section 28 is? Eleanor.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it. Obviously, I didn't experience it myself. I wasn't around. And the only thing I really know is to do with how it presented itself in school as to not promoting homosexuality, or so-called promoting homosexuality. I feel I need to do the air quotes around that. But really, that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah. Eliana, have you heard of Section 28 before?
Not really. I'm here to learn today.
Oh, fabulous. We always love, yes, every day is a learning day. Thomas Small, now I know that you're just, the ripe old age of 22. Have you heard of Section 28 before?
I think so. Yes, I think kind of grown up, it was just this massive cloud that was kind of, I mean, if I'm honest, I didn't, obviously kind of at that point in time, I didn't understand that's what it was, Section 28. So, nobody sat me down as a young person at school, because I was absolutely at school during that whole time that Section 28 was in place. And, nobody actually sat me down and said, well, because of Section 28, Tommy, I'm not going to tell you. And obvious, so obviously it wasn't that kind of feeling. But my feeling was that I knew I was different. I didn't know what that meant. But I realized that when people were talking about sex education, that I realized that actually that wasn't me. And I wasn't, that wasn't applicable to me in terms of kind of what they were talking about very biological functions of the body and, those particular things in a heterosexual relationship. But I had loads of questions because it flagged loads of stuff. And I kind of thought, okay, cool. They'll just come on to the other stuff then. Okay. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And here I am at the grand old age of 25, still waiting for that lecture to come. But what was really difficult was that I was pretty badly bullied for being gay at school. And whenever we kind of saw any kind of, support from a school, the school would literally shut it down and say, I remember once getting told, maybe you just need to quiet it down a bit. Like maybe you just need to, not quite be quite so vibrant, And it's just like, okay, are we really telling a young person to do that? That's interesting. And I was already quite a quiet person actually at school. So what really hit me about Section 28, as well as kind of living it, was that then in, I think it was the year 2000, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the year 2000, the Stagecoach company, the bus company, the CEO of there, he he funded this campaign across Scotland to keep the clause, I think is what it was called. And he was really trying to push Brian Souter, I've just remembered his name. Brian Souter, he funded this whole campaign to keep the clause because he thought it was morally incorrect to get rid of it. So as a young man, I think it was maybe, oh, I'm not going to give away my age. Oh my goodness, nearly gave away my age there. How dare I? But let's just say I was young. And, you know, walking about, it was actually humiliating, actually, walking down the street. And, you know, I came out to my family by then, you know, my family knew, and we're all brilliant. But it was just humiliating walking down the street and massive billboards, you know, huge billboards on the streets just saying, keep the clause, you know. And I couldn't believe it. I genuinely did not think that Scotland would repeal it. I genuinely didn't. I thought Scotland would keep it. I thought the UK would keep it, but I was living in Scotland at the time. So I really believed that I was going to keep living under the cloud. So what I'm seeing from my generation, you know, is a huge mental health crisis, because there's been people who've been fundamentally let down by the government of the day. And it's kind of state-sanctioned homophobia, you know? And of course, the right-wing media were all over that. So everywhere you went, and people were using words like, I still remember to this day, and I have to sometimes Google this just to remind myself, other search engines are available, but I have to search this sometimes just to remind myself that the mainstream media, or the right-wing media, used words like dirty about gay people. You know, not necessarily in relation to, because some people, there's a really, you know, horrible kind of side about, you know, slang and kind of terminology where people say, are you clean, unclean, about STIs and all those kind of things, you know, which is just hopefully a kind of a thing that's passing and people are not using that kind of vocabulary anymore. So I'm not talking about that. They weren't talking about that. They were just talking about us being us is just an immoral, dirty act that they didn't think was sanitary and clean kind of image that they wanted the public to kind of see, you know. So it is humiliating, like truly humiliating, to be living under that bubble at that time. And the effects of it are still far-reaching now, because there's still all the generations of people maybe kind of raising children with that kind of mindset, and we're trying to unpack that and try and help people learn that we've moved on, and hopefully we're seeing some change in that aspect. But yeah, it's just horrendous, and we have to make sure and fight as much as we possibly can to make sure that never, ever, ever happens again.
Well, just in case anyone is watching and listening to Tommy's words there and thinking, okay, great, but what is Section 28? That sounds awful. I will tell you now. So in 1988, amid the tragic HIV and AIDS epidemic that took so many lives of our community and beyond, the Thatcher government had introduced the Section 28, which was a clause which was part of the Local Government Act, which in essence was a law against, as Eleanor so put, the air quotes, the promotion against homosexuality in schools. Now, what does that mean? It means that if any children, like Tommy had mentioned at school, had a question about any queer topic such as same-gender relationships, or if they were experiencing homophobic bullying, they could not go to teachers and ask for support or advice. If the teachers gave them support and advice, they would get in trouble because it was against the law. The teachers were completely prohibited in offering any support. Now, for most young people watching this now, this must just seem like a cruel restraint on expressing who we are within school walls. Thankfully, as we mentioned with the teachers that we talked to on Wednesday's show, now it's part of the curriculum in Scotland, which is amazing. However, Section 28 was put in place from 1988 all the way up until 2000 in Scotland, which, as Tommy mentioned there, even though it was redacted, there was a huge pushback against that. And it wasn't until 2003 with the rest of the UK. Now, even though it's been taken away, it's been repealed and redacted, and that's no longer the case, that doesn't mean that every teacher is just going to suddenly come bursting into the classroom singing "Express Yourself" with a Will and Grace box set under their arm. You know, that's not what happened, certainly not in my experience. So it has still taken a long time for not only the act to be repealed, but also for there to be a promotion, not of homosexuality, but a promotion of well-being for queer youth, and a promotion of you're okay, you're fine, and support for young people. So how does that feel now, knowing that thankfully our youth is on that track, Eleanor?
Great. To sum it up, it's great. I mean, I hadn't quite got a grasp of my identity whilst I was at high school, but I wonder now, had it been a little like part of the curriculum as it is now, maybe would I have realised earlier? I'm not sure. We'll never know. But it'd be wonderful if it can help some young people now realise it earlier, or just be comfortable if they've already realised it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Eliana, any thoughts there, considering you are here to learn, as you so put it?
I think even though quite lately Scotland just decided to put educational courses on that subject, I think it is still an amazing progressive step, and I wish more countries could adopt that kind of mentality, because imagine how the world would be if every school would teach young children that it's okay to be who you are, just live. That would make life so much easier.
So much easier, so much easier. And of course, as we mentioned on Wednesday, we were talking with Mamoru about this subject, and they were saying that not every teacher necessarily feels completely comfortable with these subjects. It might be a bit out their comfort zone, which isn't a bad thing. But regardless, it's still great that it's being put into the curriculum, and hopefully having those conversations, both with teachers and also with young people, will help to, just improve things all round. Tommy, how does it feel for you as someone who was at school during the kind of height of Section 28 for now this kind of 180 and LGBT issues being on the school curriculum in Scotland?
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's absolutely what's needed, because, I mean, I was just reminded there about the, in America back in, I think it was 2010, Dan Savage and Terry Miller in America set up a project called It Gets Better. And it's just fascinating to think that we live in a time where we have to set something like that up. That actually, because young LGBTQ plus people were taking their own lives because they were in crisis and there was no support systems around them to show them that life gets better. And we all know that life as a teenager can be really tough. You're dealing with huge biological changes, you're dealing with huge emotional challenges, as well as trying to, work out where you're at in the world. It's really super complicated to be a young person, never mind an LGBTQ young person, and to not have your life represented either in the classroom or through the kind of curriculum. So it's just so sad to then think about so many young people then at risk of or indeed taking their own lives. So I just really hope that there is something for me there about It Gets Better, and I think that the message of that organisation is just absolutely spot on for me, because I think that is the thing about, even though looking back for me about that was a really horrendous time. I still bump into people that I went to school and they'll say, oh, it was like the best years of our life, and I honestly think you have no idea. It was the worst days of my life. Secondary school, I have virtually no happy memories of it, because I was the kids that was like, I'd set up this kind of project to try and fit in and be me and slightly quieten down. So I set up a dance club, as you do, learning like Madonna Vogue routines and all that. And actually, it was quite well accepted. But looking back, it's quite funny really to think about that the school, although they were probably banned from being able to kind of support me, they were finding their own kind of way to do that, which I've just kind of worked through now that's probably what they were doing, because they would give me, a space to kind of do that and support this kind of dance club. But I was literally, without being in drag, I was pretty much doing like a drag act. I was lip syncing to Whitney Houston's Queen of the Night. I was doing full on dance routines. I've got film footage that actually features one of our shows, The Unwanted. But it's quite hilarious when you look back at it now. But I was loving that moment, being able to be in that dance club was great. And if I could just stay in that dance club, it would be brilliant. But unfortunately, I then had to leave that every lunchtime and then go back to the normality. And I just wish someone had said, it gets better. I just wish somebody had said that, and to be able to have that. So with all that in mind, putting my own personal experience aside, thinking that actually young people are going to have that embedded into their lives going forward, I mean, I could greet. It's emotional thinking about that, you know.
Completely. And as well, I think for a lot of us, myself included, that actually a lot of the time, because of that delay in the education and the discussion around your identity, your sexuality, your gender, everything, that sometimes it's not until, for our community anyway, sometimes it's not until a bit later on in life before you actually kind of realise what's going on with you. And then it takes even longer to then be comfortable with that. And that's something that is also one of the themes of the next film as part of our Hear Me Out project that we're going to showcase with you this evening. Next up on tonight's show, we have got another film coming your way as part of Hear Me Out, our oral history project funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. This film is called Period, but not the word period, just like a full stop, period. It's performed by me, because I just pure love being in the spotlight. And it's directed, choreographed and edited by the fabulous Thomas Small, who's our artistic director at Shaper Caper. This film was a kind of subsequent idea from our film that we did yesterday, which was called Them, and it was based in bathrooms. And it was based around using gendered bathrooms when you're trans and or non-binary. And we realised that a lot of the discomfort that some trans and non-binary people feel using gender bathrooms, it also is kind of tied up with menstrual cycles. Now, even for cis women, cis girls, anyone who gets a menstrual cycle, you'll know often it's not pleasant. It can be extremely painful, it can be quite messy at times, it can catch you unawares, it's unpredictable, it's natural and it's normal and it should be talked about more, but my goodness, it's not very pleasant and it's not sometimes something that we want to talk about. But we do think it's important to raise the issue that for cis women and cis girls who get periods, it can be physically painful. For a lot of trans and non-binary people, it can also be emotionally painful, and it can come with a lot of feelings of dysphoria, it can come with a lot of feelings of feeling disconnected from your body, it can be really, really difficult. There was a particular article that we read from a trans man, a trans male journalist who still gets periods, and he was saying that sometimes, you know, you just get caught unawares with periods, that happens, and being in a male bathroom where there's no access to sanitary products such as tampons or towels, it was really difficult, and that was just something that we thought was just such an important part of the conversation. And we still think that periods are viewed as, oftentimes it's kind of unsanitary and it's a bit unhygienic and it's disgusting, and it still feels very much like a taboo subject. So especially for trans and non-binary people, it's like another layer of like, oh, we can't talk about this. So we really just wanted to put that in the spotlight. We filmed during lockdown, socially distanced and safe, up at Tentsmuir Forest, and we saw the beach and the waves coming in, and we thought it was just such a beautiful scene, and we thought that the idea of the kind of waves being beautiful and normal and natural, but also very destructive for in some cases, such as like with tsunamis and stuff, we thought it was quite a nice mirror of how having menstrual cycles and periods can feel for some people. So that's the idea behind the film. So we will show you that film now. We hope you enjoy it. I always liked the term tomboy. Not quite girl, but not enough to be a boy. It fits for me. It's even quite cute when you're 6. When you're 16, not so much. Because that's when you know, if not here already, it's coming. Everyone knows about it. The worst kept secret. At school, at home, your friends, your family, it's all anyone can talk about. It's all you can think about. It floods your thoughts. And you can see it off in the distance, on the horizon, like a tsunami. Inevitable. No escape. Soon, you're going to become a woman. It'll be here before you know it. And you'll be a woman. Nothing to be scared of. Haven't you started yet? You're a late developer. You should be a woman by now. You're supposed to want it. Almost to look forward to it. Every day, every week, every month spent waiting. Ant Flow, the Crimson Wave, Shark Week. And now, the tide is coming in. Faster than you want, faster than you can handle, just like everybody else. And that's what you always wanted, to be just like everybody else, except theirs drips delicately of womanhood and yours swamping every fibre of your being as well as your underwear. It pours out of you heavier than tears. The pain slices you in half as you lay crooked on the cold bathroom tiles, a broken branch on the forest floor. The pain in your womb, the pain in your head, but it's okay, because you're a woman now. Finally, what took you so long? You're a woman now. Those waves. You're a woman now. Those waves, they swell higher and higher every day, every week, every month, until you're stranded in a vast, unruly ocean. No life raft out here. The tide is circling all around you. The sharks are moving towards you. Just when you find yourself gently floating on the surface, that current pulls you back under, further and further every time, and you're gurgling, you're gasping, you're drowning. But it's okay, because you're a woman now. And that's what you always wanted, isn't it? Finally, you're a woman. Oh, don't be so scared. Shut your mouth, close your legs, bleed like every other woman does. Get on with it. Those sharks, they're really circling closer and closer. You want to scream, but you can only gurgle. The tide swallows you, it envelops you. The shark's teeth pierce and slice, and there's no escape, because you're a woman now, and you're stuck, because you're a woman now. And the current grows stronger, and the sharks get faster, and you're a woman now, and you're drowning, and you can't escape, because you're a woman now, and there's no way out, and there's no life raft, because you're a woman now. You're a woman now. Oh, you're a woman, and there's no escape, and I can't get out, and I'm stuck. I'm stuck here, my feet kicking, treading water, except there is no water. I'm surrounded, I'm drowning. God, someone help. Someone get me out, I'm drowning. Help, I can't escape. I'm a woman now. I can't escape. I'm a woman. The womanhood, it's here. It swallows me and I can't get out. I can't get out. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't swim. Someone help me. I can't swim. And there's no way out. And you're a woman and you're stuck until the waves finally fall. Off in the distance, you see the desert island. And you tirelessly clamber your way back onto dry land. The tide's moving back out now. But the weight of that ocean continues to drag and pull and remind you that feeling the sand in your toes and the sun on your skin, it's only temporary. The sharks are gone now. So we do hope that you enjoyed our final Hear Me Out film of this week, which was Period, and we hope that you enjoyed all of the rest of the films that we had to showcase with you. Next up is our final performance of the week, and we are so delighted and honoured that she was able to join us on the In Out Crowd Festival. It is the fabulous Jo Clifford's turn to slay the stage.
At the beginning, there was darkness. Darkness over the face of the deep. And my mum saw the darkness and she said, "Let there be light." Oh, look, there is light. Oh, wasn't she clever? Isn't it beautiful? Oh, I love my mum. My mum said, "Let there be light." And I say, I am the light. And I am. And I have come to bring light to a dark place. And that's why you're here too, to bring light to dark places. Because when my mum made the great big light in the sky, she took a tiny bit of that light and she put it inside each one of us. And it is still there. No matter how much darkness there is in the world around us, no matter how much darkness there is in our lives, the light is still there. Deep, deep in the heart of us. And our job is to bring it out and let it shine. There you go. That's that one.
I was like totally like applauding, and then I realised, oh, I'm on mute. No one can even hear it. I mean, and what a, I mean, this is the final day. This Friday is going to be the final day of our event. So, oh, there you are. Let there be light. So, and what a fantastic kind of way to end it, about, you know, the darkness within the world, within ourselves. Of course, there's lots of different interpretations that anyone watching or listening could take for that. But for you, what is the interpretation that you take from those words?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a bit from the Gospel according to Jesus, Queen of Heaven. And it's one of my favourite bits, actually. It's quite hard to do on stage because sometimes the matches don't light. But you know, and I love the fact that it's my mum that's created the world. It's not God the Father, it's God the Mother. That's important. And the idea that there's a light inside each one of us, and there is a light inside each one of us, and we do our best to make it shine. You know, that's what you do. That is what you're doing at this very moment as you present and create these programs, and that's important. And I think it's important for queer people because we've been taught we're quite, or at least I was taught, there was no light in me. You know, I was told that I was a sick person, that there was something really seriously wrong with me. And there's another bit in the same play where I say, there's a light inside each one of us. And sometimes it's the very thing we've been taught to be most ashamed of. And if you have a light, do you hide it under a bucket? No, you bring it out into the open so everyone can see it. And be glad it exists to shine in the world. And that's obviously about our queerness. You know, because we will be made to feel rotten about it one time or another, but it is an incredibly important thing. And if we can find a way through our shame and through the darkness inside us and shine our light, then that's really good for us. That helps liberate us, but it also helps free everyone else in the world.
God, I nearly felt myself welling up there. I was like, "You're on camera, Alex, calm it." No, it's so true though. You know, that was actually one of the kind of questions that I was going to ask. I'm glad you brought it up about, you know, we've all at one point or another made to feel a bit rotten about kind of who we are, essentially. And a lot of people have said, just in the kind of grapevine, that it's a lot easier for anyone to come out any which identification they might have now than it was even, you know, 10 years ago or 15, 20 years ago. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'm very old. See, when I was a child, it was the 50s, and at that time, well, gosh, nobody was out. No gay people were out. It was illegal to be gay. It was illegal for a boy or a man to wear women's clothes in public. You could be arrested for it. And when I grew up, there was me, somebody born with a male body and a male identity, and I didn't feel I was male at all. But I couldn't make sense of myself. I couldn't understand myself because there weren't any words. The words like transgender didn't exist, and so there was no possibility of coming out because there was nothing to come out to. There was no identity to say, oh, I belong to that. I am that. And it's funny. I mean, I had affairs with men, but they never came to anything because I was too frightened and ashamed. And then I fell in love with a woman, and she fell in love with me, and we were together 33 years. And so that meant, well, still, that didn't really solve the problem. And it was wonderful because, oh, well, somebody loves me and then my children love me. But who am I? I'm not gay, obviously. I'm in a marriage and I'm really working hard to make that marriage work. Oh, and it took years and years and years. I was 40 years old before I saw a film called The Crying Game. And that was the first time I saw a trans character on screen maybe played by a trans actress, being presented as a human being, as a loving, interesting, multifaceted human being. Before all that, and so I was in my 40s, and that's a long time to go without seeing any representation of yourself at all. It's really damaging, and so that's one thing that gives life and energy and meaning to the work I do now, because I don't want any young person or old person or anyone to go through what I went through then, because that was just horrible.
Absolutely. It's something that we've been talking about throughout this whole week, is the kind of historic abuses really from government towards kind of our community, and then how that is filtered through. And I think particularly from things like Section 28, there's so many people that are still really suffering from that. And even me, I was in primary 1, I think, when Section 28 was taken away. But me and Tommy have kind of talked before, and even though it was taken away, it still didn't mean that the problem was solved. There was still no discussion really, and I've noticed a big difference even in the last 10 years. There's been so much more discussion around just around LGBT plus culture, and I think it's been really quite astonishing.
It's been amazing. I mean, so how quickly change has happened. I mean, 10 years ago when I first did Jesus, Queen of Heaven, as far as I could tell, I was the only out trans performer. Well, I wouldn't say in the world, but at least in Scotland, and there was nobody else. That's why I had to do it, really. Couldn't find anybody else, and yet, if you think at how much things have changed now, and amazing things like what we're taking part in now. Oh, it didn't exist, and it's fantastic that they do now. And so I don't know, I feel really hopeful, in spite of all the difficulties we're under now. I feel very hopeful. Things are getting better.
Absolutely. Always something to be hopeful for, always. Yeah. With that, another kind of thing that I wanted to ask you was, being a queer person in the arts, that's something that I think some people maybe just assume that the arts is just, all understanding and, and it's the perfect place to be. And, forging a career in the arts is difficult for anyone, but particularly as a queer person, is there any kind of obstacles that you had to face, and then subsequently paved your own way to become who you are?
Well, I mean, the lucky thing was that I kind of was able to establish myself as a male playwright, John Clifford, and John Clifford was really successful until I was even fashionable, until I started to try and write about trans things, and this was in the 90s, ridiculously early. But then suddenly I was out of favour. And nobody would commission me for years and years. And I had to, the only way I could put trans things on stage was to pay for them myself. I was lucky. I was working as a university lecturer, so I had a bit of spare cash, and I could put that into putting on my own work. And Jesus, Queen of Heaven, wow, that was all my own money, more or less. It was just 2,000 quid from Glasgow in Glasgow, but 2,000 quid did not pay for much. I can tell you. And then, when I was trying to put it in the Fringe, no venues would take it. And I couldn't get any funding. Again, I paid for the first film production myself. It was lucky I'd sold my house, so I had a bit of spare cash knocking about, and that's what I spent it on. And well, that was good. That was a good way to spend the money.
Quite absolute, quite right.
Yeah, and it was only when we got the chance to present the show in the Traverse, which must have been, I don't know, 4 years ago, that we actually got Arts Council money to do it. So it's been very difficult. It's still pretty difficult to promote that play because most venues don't want it. And yes, I think I have suffered quite a lot of discrimination as a queer person. I can't tell you the number of times that artistic directors said to me, oh, Joe, I love your work. We do, we love it. But no, we can't program it. We don't know how to. We can't find a space for you in our program. You know, which is like saying, well, there's no space for a trans artist in our cisgendered or possibly in our gay program of work. We're not going to do it. And of course, in the last 10 years that I've started to work as an actress, I mean, God, how silly is that, eh? What opportunities are there for a for a trans actress in her late 60s? So there's all kinds of intersectional prejudices going on there, and I most of the time I have to write my own work. That's the only way I can get work. But you know, who knows? It's fun to do.
Absolutely, and it's fun to, you know, and even for someone like myself, I'm not trans, but I would consider kind of trans non-binary, and it's just amazing to see someone just paving their own way, because that is the most difficult thing to do. It's kind of, if you're one of these people that just naturally fits into boxes that people are requiring of you, then great, fine, no bother. But you know, for anyone who feels like they're maybe a bit misplaced in the arts, I think it's just amazing that people like yourselves will come on and just, you know, chat about these kind of things, because it's important that people know it's still happening, and it's not just because, you know, we're all lefty liberal, you know, vegan oat milk drinking, myself included, you know, it is that there is actually still a long way to go for a lot of us.
Oh, there's a whole lot of work to do. But how great that we've got this far, and we've got this far very quickly. And who knows what's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years? Who knows?
Fingers crossed, not another pandemic that can stay with it. One more question before we kind of do your wrap up spoken words is, if you could give yourself, your 14-year-old self, a piece of advice. It's always a difficult question, but is there any advice that you could give to 14-year-old Joe?
That was the worst time in my life. I would say, you're all right. You're okay. And maybe with a bit of myself, I must have known that, or I would never have survived. Yeah, you're okay. Don't give up. But I didn't give up. But no, it is just that feeling. You're all right. You're fine. You're loved. The world will love you. Just be yourself and it'll be okay. I'd say that to everybody. Don't try and be like other people. Just try to be yourself.
That's it. There's always what is it? Something like, you know, you're the lead role in your own life. Don't try and be an extra.
Absolutely not. No.
Well, that was amazing chatting to you there, Joe. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you till next LGBTQ plus History Month. So we know that you've had one other piece of kind of work that you'd like to showcase, I believe.
Yeah, well, this is a play I did called Eve, that's based on my own life, and I co-wrote it with a lovely queer writer called Chris Good, and it was put on by the National Theatre of Scotland and in the Travis, one Fringe, can't remember quite exactly when, and then the following year we took it to Dundee. We did it in Dundee Rep. I did it in the Glasgow Citizens. I did it right up in Nairn, and then we took it to Brazil, to Belo Horizonte, and it's another play I'm very proud of. So I'd like to do just a little bit from it, if I could.
Absolutely. Take it away, Joe.
Okay. Today I want to write a manifesto. I want to write a manifesto because I feel militant. Because I've been thinking about my life. Been looking at the photographs. I've been making a list of everything that happened. Been writing it all down. This is when I was sent away. This is when my mum died. This is when I thought it was all my fault. This is when no one would speak to me for months and months. This is when I thought no one would ever love me. This is when I wanted to die. This is when Lorca taught me not to die and I went to Spain. This is when I ate yogurt for the very first time. But at first there was nothing. It was as if I didn't exist. My dad used to like the boxing, and sometimes he'd let me watch it too. It's a special treat. I used to keep my eyes tight shut and listen to the commentator, because in spite of everything, his voice was kind. Soon after my dad died, I was taken to the pantomime. My first ever trip to the theatre. It was Billy Dainty as Widow Twanky in Aladdin. He was dressed as a ballerina. Oh, he did a striptease right down to his underwear, and everyone laughed at him. But what he did could have been beautiful. I wanted to be the Princess Jasmine because she wore the most beautiful dresses. But I think I knew deep down, knew that I was Widow Twanky. That meant everyone would laugh at me. My dad used to watch the black and white minstrel show, and I wanted to be one of the chorus girls and have long legs in tights and wear a sparkly leotard, and at the top of my head have a great big plume. Oh, and dance in high heels and always keep smiling. But I couldn't do that, could I? I wasn't even supposed to think that, was I? Being a boy. But don't think I'm going to tell you a story of suffering, of cruelty and betrayal and being hurt by it all. No. And I won't tell you the story of a girl born into a boy's body whose troubles end when she meets a nice, kind surgeon who gives her a vagina. No. Because a girl can have a penis. A boy can have a vagina. We all have our bodies, and they are all beautiful. There you go.
Wow, Joe, that was, I'm speechless. That was really, really beautiful. Sorry. And I wasn't expecting to spend my evening like this. Apologies. I should have put some slap on. Oh,
No,
goodness.
no, because then your mascara would have run there. It would have been even
Oh,
worse.
exactly. Should have. But see, this is how much I know about makeup. Oh, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you again, Joe, for sharing your time with us tonight and sharing two absolutely incredible pieces of work. That's just really, I know that everyone watching will be probably in the same state as I am, and if not, applauding to a screen. Is there any particular social media platforms or websites or anything that people can sort of catch you on once everything's lifted and we're all back to doing what we do?
Oh, well, I'm on Facebook. I'm on, what else am I on? I'm on Twitter. I'm on, what am I on Twitter? Joe Clifford Plays, I think. And I'm on Instagram, and I can't remember what the particular thing is. But if you want to find out about Jesus, Queen of Heaven, then you can go to queenjesusproductions.com. We've got a very, very exciting thing happening just after Easter, which I can't really tell you about just now. And I've got a, well, it's not quite a radio play. It's a sort of binaural radio experience. You've got to listen to it through headphones, called Slug Love. It's a very queer play, Slug Love. And you can find that on tron.co.uk. It's part of a series they're doing called Earwig, and that'll be coming out, is it next Wednesday? Or maybe the Wednesday after. Anyway, just keep your eyes open for that.
We will do. Keep them totally peeled. We'll keep an eye out for it. Lovely. Thank you so much again, Joe, for all of your time.
You're welcome. Lovely to, thank you for asking me.
Oh, lovely. I've got my hat back on. I have dried my tears and we're all good to go. Thank you so much for that moving, incredible, words can't describe performance from Joe Clifford there. This is me speechless, by the way, in case you've never seen it. This is what it looks like. I'd like to give a special shout out to every single person who featured on this week's festival. All of our artists, including Miss Peaches, including Mamoru Iraguchi, including Jake Evans, Joe Clifford, and also our special guests on Monday, who were Dom and Becca from Pink Saltire, and also Becky Kaufman from the Scottish Trans Alliance. Every single artist, activist and organisation that has featured on the show this week and even prior, you are all part of the fabric of our community, and you are all the reason that we are still making LGBTQ plus history right now. And we are so thankful to be part of it. And of course, we can't forget our fabulous funders who made not only the In-Out crowd a reality, but also the In-Out Festival this week. Thank you so much to our funders, the Corra Foundation, National Lottery Heritage Fund, and also the Equality Network. And thank you to LGBT Youth Scotland for their support in this event. And before I start pure welling up again, that's all, folks.